pogrom that we had in the heart of the country, and it's people brings back scenes and memories of the Holocaust. They want to wipe out the Jews.
They want to take revenge by killing all people there in Gaza. They want to wipe out all Gaza. It's ethnic cleansing, extermination, genocide.
We are the end of the world. Pray for God. Everybody should pray for God.
A few days after the Hamas terror attacks, Israeli troops were gearing up for the announced ground offensive on the Palestinian enclave. Tens of thousands of reservists had been called to service, as in this battalion, camped at the edge of the sadly notorious kibbutz Be'eri, one of the hardest hit by the Hamas terrorists. 10% of its 1,100 inhabitants were killed. The teams of the Israeli Zaka forensics organization were still in shock at the atrocities they found after the village was recaptured by the Israeli army.
The first house that we went in, we saw a couple, a father and mother, with hands tied to the back, tortured, and tortured, missing body parts while they were alive. On the other side is two children, 6-year-old and 7-year-old boy and girl, same position, tortured. We go into the next one. There's a pregnant lady lies on the floor, face down. We turn her over. She's butchered open, her stomach. Baby, an infant, an unborn infant that is still connected with the cord. You know, I could see the baby. It's a mature baby. It's just stabbed, and she was shot in the back.
Many other accounts of alleged torture and abuse on civilians, including rapes and beheadings, would follow.
I'm 70 years old.
Rami Gold was among a group of Be'eri residents who defended the village with their rifles against Hamas assailants for 12 hours before the Israeli army reached the site.
We're going to go back home. We're going to rebuild everything. And now we're going to claim our life again.
More than 100 of the kibbutz's residents were taken hostage or reported missing. Well, the sight is just overwhelming. You can imagine how people were torn out of their homes while they were having, a quite peaceful time on a weekend with their family. Yarden Roman Gat, a dual Israeli-German citizen, and her sister-in-law Carmel are among the civilians missing from Be'eri. From Yarden's parents' home near Tel Aviv, their extended families and friends are working relentlessly to find them. Yarden was visiting her in-laws in Be'eri with her husband and their daughter when they were captured by the terrorists. They escaped the car taking them to Gaza and fled to the woods while being shot at by 4 Hamas gunmen. The young woman handed the child over to her husband, who managed to get away, but she did not run fast enough. Yarden and Carmel have not been heard of since. But Yarden's mother-in-law was killed by the terrorists.
How do you tell a 3-year-old that her grandmother was murdered by the bad people that got to her home? She saw them. She understands. I was just scared that she'll ask, is that the same thing that they're going to do tomorrow?
The family has called Germany and the international community for help.
I don't even want to think about how they treat them, what they do with them. That's going to be the new terror. That's going to be everywhere in the world. Today it's Israel, but tomorrow, who knows?
A week after the launch of Israel's offensive, the Hamas Health Ministry reported that more than 1,500 people, nearly half of whom children and women, were killed and thousands more injured in the Gaza Strip under constant bombing. The thunder of war echoed in the West Bank and occupied East Jerusalem. Security had been hyped up in the old city of Jerusalem, where some 2,500 police and military forces were deployed for the first Muslim Friday prayers since the 7th of October. Activity was at a standstill and security checks constant.
يعني الوضع عندنا في آخر أسبوع عشان الحرب هذه كتير صعب في البلدة القديمة يعني معاهم الضوء الأخضر إنهم يطفوا يضربوا بعد الساعة 5 المغرب ممنوع حد يطلع من داره.
Men under 60 were not allowed to enter the grounds of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Soldiers filtering access were on edge.
انت شفتي بعينك شفتي كيف مسكوني هجموا علي بايدي ربطوا بايدي وفشوا تدخلوا متوحشين هدول متوحشين كريزي يلا 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 برا انت روح برا هذه بلدي هاي بلدي هاي بلدي ولك انت بلدي
يا بتشانو يا بتشانو ثاني لك بدك من عفنين ما هم بدك من عفنين.
Meanwhile, a mass exodus had started from northern Gaza after Israel's military gave more than 1 million people 24 hours to evacuate to the southern part of the Hamas-controlled territory. The United Nations warned the world that an unprecedented human catastrophe was unfolding. Hamas rockets kept pounding southern and central Israel, also under fire from Lebanese Hezbollah in the north. 120,000 people were displaced. The country was under alert.
Well, we were on the highway on our way to Tel Aviv from Jerusalem. An air raid siren just rang and cars stopped on the side of the road for people to take shelter under a bridge.
They don't want just the south. They want Tel Aviv and Jaffa and Haifa. And
we try not to hurt the civilians, but we say them, go to the civilian, go. Save your life. Go from Hamas.
ISIS.
And Europe.
They don't understand this. You understand?
They will not finish in Israel.
For some in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government policies contributed to the current situation. On the first Shabbat, the Jewish day of rest since the Hamas attacks, hundreds had come to protest against the government in front of the Israeli Defense Ministry in Tel Aviv. They rallied with families of hostages, demanding their immediate release.
Bring them back! Bring them back! This is my daughter, Valérie Gauriat. She was kidnapped in her pajamas early morning to Gaza. And I want her back now. She was in the army base. She's 18 years old. So she don't want to fight. I believe also in Gaza, they don't want to fight. Nobody wants to fight. Everybody just wants to live.
The fact that they're dehumanizing all the Gazans and all the Palestinians is actually, at the end, it will be against Israelis, because this is the cause of this whole thing. The cause is the endless cycle of revenge. To be against Hamas does not mean that we have to kill one child in Gaza.
As the death toll of civilians continued to rise in the Gaza Strip, Palestinians in the West Bank choked with anxiety and anger. Many were mourning the loss of their relatives in Gaza. In a quiet neighborhood in the city of Ramallah, Eman and her husband were grieving, crushed by the news they received from Gaza a few days before, after Eman's family home was bombed.
This is my house before the war, and this is after. Look, I lost my brother. He's old, 38. My mother, 75. My father, 82. My mother, she's coming without hand, without legs, without head. Like this. I work with the human rights issue before 27 years or maybe 28 years. Really, I believed about the human rights issue. When facing Palestinian people, citizen people, a child, this concept disappears.
What's the exchange rate of our human blood to be treated like this until they are satisfied? It's ethnic cleansing, extermination, genocide. Everyone knows why all is this happening. The root of all the problems is occupation. No one is supporting killing of civilians in this world. But for the past 57 years, we have been killed, children, families, civilians, elderly, in West Bank and in Gaza, day by day, consistently. And no one is paying any big attention to end the situation, which is the root of everything.
Violence was soaring in the West Bank, where hundreds of Palestinians were arrested. According to the United Nations, more than 50 Palestinians were also killed in clashes with the Israeli army or with settlers in the space of 10 days, a figure that would more than triple in the following weeks. The city of Beitar Illit, a few kilometers south of Jerusalem, is one of the biggest of the Gush Etzion block of Jewish settlements. It's home to some 70,000 people. Fear of attacks from the nearby Palestinian villages ran high among the population after a Hamas rocket fired from Gaza hit the town on October 9. Residents welcomed the move from the Israeli government to provide 10,000 free weapons to West Bank settlers and relax rules on gun licenses. The municipality also organized self-defense training programs. Ronnie, a former military, is among the instructors.
Like me, many other Haredi people understood that maybe there will come a time when there will be nobody there to help them, no police and no army, and that they will have to stand for themselves.
Firearms sales reached record highs since the October 7th Hamas attacks, like at this gun store in Israel's largest self-defense training center near Beitar Illit. Scores of civilians were also coming to train at the center's shooting range. Many had never handled a gun before.
As a first responder, my number one thing that I want to do is save lives, and I don't want to hurt people. But sometimes you don't have a choice. It's either kill or be killed, and it's a horrific. I hope to never, ever need to use my gun.
In the mixed cities of Israel, communities were more divided than ever. Freedom of movement and expression was restricted for the 2 million Palestinians holding Israeli citizenship. Like in one of the mixed cities close to Tel Aviv, Lod for Israelis, Lid for Palestinians.
Those who call themselves the Palestinian citizens of Israel and the Jewish people call the Israeli Arabs represent 20% of the population in Israel. Yet in the mixed cities, people are afraid to talk, afraid to come out, and they feel their fate is more than ever compromised.
Hassan Monayer is a human rights activist and social worker. He's one of the rare Palestinian citizens of Israel in Lid to have agreed to talk to us.
People are afraid. I'm afraid. They arrest a lot of young men, and they arrested in Lid a 73 years old woman for posting something or a Quran section or something like this. So people are afraid to say something that will cause them to be arrested.
Did you expect what was... Something is happening right behind us. The police have arrested a young boy who's passing by. Let's go and see.
Oh, that's it, hey?
That's it?
They left go. We, the Palestinian citizens of Israel, we are in a very, very delicate situation because we see both sides, we hear both sides. In Israel, we know, we acknowledge that innocents were being killed, and we are against it. But there is, 2.2 million in Gaza. They need hope. They need liberation. They cannot live in a cage. And you, the Europeans, are looking at them for the last 70 years doing nothing. Now you are blaming a small group of them of making this a horror and crimes, and it is crimes. But everyone is paying for this crime.
Talking to us is also a risk for Mahana Kib, a women's rights activist we meet near a wall separating an Arab neighborhood from a Jewish one in Lod.
The separation wall, it's not just in the West Bank. Actually, inside of Israel, there's an apartheid, obvious apartheid.
Maha's husband lost 20 family members killed in the bombings in Gaza.
They are 3 generations. Just one person stay alive from this family. I'm sure he's ever and never will love Israel or love Jewish people. We are now in that circle of hateness and more death and more war. We have to stop that. We need a real solution for 2 people. I don't care if it's going to be a solution for 2 states or 1 state equal for all of the people. But it has to be a political solution.
A solution in which Hani, a religious Jewish Orthodox activist, no longer believes. Relations between communities in her neighborhood were hard hit by the violence that erupted in Lod and other mixed cities of Israel in May 2021, she says. And any trust that was regained was crushed by the 7th October attacks.
The pogrom that we had in the heart of the country brings back scenes and memories of the Holocaust. You cannot live with a society that coined death as their slogan. Death for the Jews is not something that a Jew can live with. Now, I ask you, and I ask the people who funded Gaza and who gave all this money to Gaza, what happened to your money? Where was it funneled? It was funneled underground to build tunnels, to destroy Israel. They want to wipe out the Jews. If you read what the Hamas covenant says, they're saying it black and white. They're saying it to the world. There is no justification for the terror and the horrific atrocities that they did. And there's no way that we can continue living with them as our neighbors. So please, Arab nation, take your brothers in. You have Gaza. If you're really scared that they're going to be killed by the Jews, and if you care for your Arab brothers, open the gates and take them in.